Thank you, everyone, for participating in our first virtual online learning conference. We are delighted that you are here. We were all disappointed that we couldn't meet in person on March 16th, but we have a robust attendance in this conference, and we are about 2/3 of the way through the conference by now, and it has been an exciting and very engaging day. I am delighted to have Patty join me for this session. So Patty is a colleague who has become a friend and a co-collaborator, some would say a co-conspirator, as we have worked together. And so, Patty, I'm going to ask you to take 30 seconds and just tell us who you are and what what your role is at school boards and how did you land there?
Wonderful. I want to reciprocate the co-worker slash friend labeled to you as well, Rich. It has been an absolute pleasure working with you, and I think today's presentation is really an example of what happens when people have the time to think, share a mission, and have resources to be able to provide such important information out to our members. So again, my name is Patty Millett. I'm the Director of Business Development at New Jersey School Boards. I have been with New Jersey School Boards for the past 10 years, and my job is to find ways to work with public and private partners to find products, resources, professional development opportunities for our members. New Jersey School Boards represents all 580 school districts. They are all members of our organization and pay dues to our organization, and we also represent about 80% of the charter schools in New Jersey as well. So this is another wonderful example of opportunities that I get to do in my day to bring resources back to our members, as well as the 1.4 million children that our school board members across the state represent.
Thanks, Patty. So I'm going to move on to our first slide, in which we'll talk about lifelong learning, but for the sake of full disclosure, when Patty and I started working together, I revealed to her that my background includes 12 years as a school board member. And so I had a great affinity, a knowledge of New Jersey School Boards Association, a great affinity for the association because I had been involved not only on the local level, but the county level and the state level as well. And I just know the important work that the New Jersey School Boards Association does, and was very excited at this opportunity to collaborate. We'll talk more about that as we go through the presentation, but let's just get started here with talking about why lifelong learning. Why should we care at all about lifelong learning? And, there are some thinkers throughout history who have suggested to us that lifelong learning is important for not only our mental health, but our physical health and our well-being and our community health as well. So let's start at the top with the why, the how, the what of lifelong learning. When we talk about lifelong learning, our understanding, our collective understanding, Patty and I, is that lifelong learning can be both formal and informal. It can be self-directed, an individual going on a learning journey, or it can be done as a group. It could be credentialed or not. Credentialed meaning it could lead to a degree, it could lead to something other than a degree, perhaps a professional credential of sorts. But through all of these things, it is a continuous and lifelong both journey and adventure. And one of the reasons that it is continuous and lifelong and an adventure is that we are responding to a world around us that is constantly changing. And we need no other example than the time that we are in right now, since March, to reinforce that basic truth. and to underscore the importance of learning and facts and science and discovery and research, as well as all of the practical elements of how do we manage working remotely? How do we manage multiple roles where we may be working remotely and we're also teaching our children? And we are also worried about our various communities to which we belong, and we try to figure out how do we participate in those communities. Patty, comment on lifelong learning as you see it.
It's very interesting because I think that the kind of new normal that we're in really truly highlights the lifelong learning message even more than it was before. New Jersey School Boards is responsible for providing professional development to all school board members in New Jersey. In fact, it's a requirement. Every newly elected board member in New Jersey must go for professional development for the first 3 years of their first term. And then every subsequent term that they are elected, they must go through professional development. Like Rich, I too am a former school board member. I served my board for many years and was a school board president. And that taught me more than anything the importance of being aware, staying on top of issues, and the importance of education. But in terms of understanding even more so now what lifelong learning means to education, what it means in specifics for board members, could not be any more illustrated by what we are seeing today. Most of our professional development up until now was done in person. We do about between 200 and 250 training programs in person throughout the state. We have, as you all know, in New Jersey, 21 counties. Each of our counties held between 4 and 6 meetings a year. We had numerous topics on different subjects. But it was through this experience that we really had to reevaluate and start to go on a virtual world. And in that experience, what we've learned is that our members are interested in all sorts of things. They are interested in things that serve them as board members, of course, because now board meetings are virtual, learning what that means, learning how to do that. Lifelong learning also means being aware of the different issues that their districts are facing, what they are facing in their own careers, the importance of professional development and being able to do the jobs that they've been doing throughout their life. So lifelong learning truly applies to everyone. And I don't believe in my own personal life, you know, I'm 60 years old. I think I'm learning a lot every day, but boy, have I been challenged to have to learn again, go back, take professional development, take webinars, learn how to do my job differently. So in order to be relevant, in order to do our jobs well, in order to serve our members, to serve our communities, to serve our children, we have to be committed to lifelong learning and understanding that that continuously evolves with each of the challenges that we are faced every day.
And at Rutgers Division of Continuing Studies, as Crystal laid out in the opening, we support learners across the lifespan with programs that run from preschool through senior adults. And we support learners pre-work and their career preparation and their career advancement, and those who are career changers and those who are post-career. We're engaged in academic enrichment. We support self-directed learning with a variety of self-directed learning resources. We support various personal interest engagements. We have a unit that is called OLLIRU, Osher Lifelong Learning Institute at Rutgers, where our average age of our participants is almost 80 years old. Our oldest learner is 102. Our oldest instructor is 92. Reinforcing this message that lifelong learning is for everybody. to adapt and grow as people, as citizens, as business and career professionals. So why lifelong learning for Rutgers and school boards? Well, from the Rutgers perspective, Rutgers has multiple missions. Rutgers is a land-grant university, and we are the state university of New Jersey. So we have a responsibility to connect the university with our community. We have a responsibility to the state of New Jersey. The Division of Continuing Studies and Continuing Education departments throughout Rutgers University have an outreach mission, and we have been engaged in this for well over 100 years. Together, the continuing education departments at Rutgers serve over 200,000 enrollments a year in non-credit continuing education opportunities of all types, from a 2-hour workshop to a multi-year program. So it is very much part of our DNA to be engaged with lifelong learning and to have been doing this for a long, long time, and to engage in both credit and non-credit, and to reach out to serve everyone in New Jersey. What about from school board's perspective?
I think there's that beautiful word again, mission. I think that that is something that really is the driving force of our organization. And I think that our commitment, which is over 100 years old in terms of our establishment as an organization, just really, it fits perfectly with the Rutgers mission. By being able to provide training to our members, the impact that that has on students across the country. And we as an organization, example, we recently did a year-long task force on the non-college bound student or the career-focused student. And the importance of micro-credentialing, the importance of students having alternative routes besides college. And that's an area that our executive director, Dr. Feinsod, as a former superintendent, really realized that that was something that we as an organization had to look at and make sure that as we served our 1.4 million students, that we were giving the resources and the tools to our leaders as school board members so that they could impact and change and make sure that they were incorporating in their strategic plans and their missions within their district, that there were multiple options for all students. And so the partnership with Rutgers fits perfectly into that area, because what we're finding through our data is that people will change careers multiple times, that for a lot of students going and having an apprenticeship year, an internship year, going to work maybe a couple years out, having that gap year is allowing them to gather information, get credentials in areas, become more career focused, and then going back to school and being able to get the necessary academic and college degrees that they need in those areas. These partnerships are helping us tell that story, but that is about our mission. And so it's very, very important for us that we as an organization align our mission and the resources to our members in those capacities. So for our board members who are responsible for the policy, for the curriculum, for the instruction of a district, it is critical for them to have the opportunity to learn about these different areas of focus, be it college readiness, be it social emotional learning, be it the ability to understand what STEM is, what STEAM is, what robotics is, all of those things. Well, if you don't know what those things are, it is so important to have resources that you can go and educate yourself so that you can make an educated decision within your district. So again, this mission focus, which is always evolving, but is always consistent, that our role is to make sure that we are providing the best professional development for our members and continue to allow them to be relevant in their roles as school board leaders.
And so it made a lot of sense as we began these conversations to partner together because of our alignment of goals, our alignment of missions, our role within the state of New Jersey, and our commitment to the state of New Jersey, and our capacity as organizations to both serve and effect change. So a star or a partnership was born. We're going to talk about this partnership in 3 phases. We will talk about phase 1, which is where we have been recently, what we started with, and then we will move on to phases 2 and 3. And Patty, why don't I start with you to start with the phase 1 partnership and what we did in phase 1.
Sure. Like all good organizations, it's very important to be relevant to your members and to stay reflective of our needs. And as I said to you earlier, so many of our presentations were done in person, including the mandated training that board members were required to do. So several years ago, we did several of those. So we call them mandated training, or Gov 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? 1, 2, and 3, the first term of your first term that you're elected, and then Gov 4 being the subsequent professional development. So we did start to offer an online training course where I sat and I watched and I was able to check off the box after I completed it. It had minimal engagement. But that was what was good and what was best at the time, several years ago. But as we started to look at the data and started to see the demographics of our membership in terms of they were working parents, they were in situations where they could not take a day off from work to come to a full day workshop, we realized and saw that more and more people were actually taking the online training. So a couple of years ago, as we started our conversation with Rich, we had really made the decision that we really, quote unquote, had to up our game. We needed to make sure that our training wasn't just something that, as you were listening to and cleaning your house at the same time and being able to end it all, and there was no really engagement, there was no evaluation. There was no evaluation if you had actually understood or learned the concept. And when you're talking about professional development for school board members, it's very important that you understand the legal requirements of being on a board, what it means. And so these were some of the things in our governance trainings that we did. So when we started to talk to Rich and actually learned, right? That's the beautiful thing. I have been learning and learning and learning so much. I didn't really understand the difference between what we were doing as, quote, online training and what real online training did. We had staff members in our building who had experience in it, but had really never been given the opportunity to really advocate for this type of transformation in our online training. And then we met Rich, and the rest is history. And we met Joe Yankus, and the rest of the Rutgers crew, who took our expertise, and we have tons of it in our building, but matched it with the capacity of learning. And we were able to produce classes for our members that are now online, and they were the first classes on our NJSBA Online University. And we have gotten so many comments, so much feedback from it. What's beautiful is that people can ask questions and they're answered immediately. But one of the greatest compliments we got was from someone from another college. I'm not even sure Rich even knows this, who said this is some of the best online training we've ever seen, who was an instructional designer at another college. So that's a real kudos to you, Rich, and your team. So this is, and what's wonderful is that this being able to do this online training preparation, which really started pre-pandemic, and we were learning how to do it, because doing it wasn't as easy as just doing it. Our staff had to be trained. We had to educate our staff how to become presenters. Some who were phenomenal presenters in person, but had to learn, like me, because this is all very new to me as well, what it looks like to do this online, how to make sure content was done, and having the partnership with Rutgers and their expertise and being able to show us how to do it, so prepared us so that when we had to kind of flip the switch and become a virtual organization, because of the guidance and the instruction we had gotten from Rutgers on our first phase of our partnership, it really allowed us to start to do that in all of our areas in our building, because people were getting used to being able to do this online training. So it's been fantastic, absolutely fantastic.
And it has been an enriching experience for us, and it has been really exciting. And I want to give another shout out to Joe Yankus, who has been our primary point of contact, our primary expert in actually working with New Jersey School Boards Association, and as we started this, to help build online courses, first with existing training and then moving to new courses beyond that. But it was exciting for us to leverage our experience. We have been doing online courses for over 20 years, and we have built up a team, and they are part of the TLT, the Teaching and Learning with Technology, the group that is bringing you today's virtual conference. We have been able to leverage that expertise for a greater good. And we saw the opportunity to collaborate so that the work between Rutgers and New Jersey school boards working together would actually be greater than the sum of its parts. And that's what's been so exciting about this partnership. And as we began talking about this, and Patty and I would have session upon session, and we began brainstorming, like, where can we go with this? This is exciting. We can reach the whole state, and we have networks within the state. We've got a responsibility to the state. Let's put this together. And I said, whoa, okay, whoa, stop. We have to start someplace. We have to start someplace. And so it made sense in phase one that we actually started taking some existing courses and then converting those courses. And as Patty outlined, also educating the staff. And so Joe and others from our team would meet with folks from the New Jersey school boards and their extended staff and talk about what is not only our vision for online learning, but also what is best practice and what are some of the tools that we use now. And I would dare say that in the 20 plus years that I've been engaged in this work, we have seen a greater diversity of technology tools that have enabled us to create even more robust and highly interactive learning experiences for everyone. So that was phase one. I'm going to talk about phase two. So phase two, again, I'm going to kick back to Patty momentarily, but from the Rutgers perspective, what I saw was what I wondered was, how can we even better deepen this relationship and make this connection impactful for both of us. And the New Jersey School Boards Association holds a very large conference each year. It has been in Atlantic City. It's called their workshop. And I remember this. I remember this from having done presentations ancient years ago, when I was a school board member, that I did some presentations at workshop. And I said, we need to be engaged there. We need to be engaged at workshop. We need to be engaged in other areas as well. but we did begin with our first rollout of online courses. So Patty, why don't you start with that one about how our first online courses.
Yep. So as I said to you before, the mandated training courses went out. We're about to launch a salary guides program for board members who are involved in negotiations with school districts. And I think that the other part of this that was very exciting as well was that because of the different programming things that we were learning for our online university, and now we're starting to develop a program on SEL. We're going to be doing a program around STEAM. We now are able to look at everything that we're involved in and start to translate that into a professional development opportunity. So even though we're on rollout of the first few courses, everyone within our building right now is starting to translate what they are used to doing in person to a virtual environment. And the reason why that is becoming so much easier in terms of buy-in, because it is a buy-in. I mean, this is a very different way of doing the things that we do, is the fact that our data is showing that on all the virtual events that have all been done in person prior and are now being done virtually, that our attendance has multiplied at rates that we can't believe. In terms of the fact that maybe we'll have 40, 50, 60 people in one of our live events. And because it's recorded, because we've now learned how to do them better, thanks to our relationship with Rutgers, we'll now have 600, 700, 800 people come back and view it. The impact on professional development for board members and other district staff. And when we do our training, even though we serve board members, superintendents, business administrators, other district staff, they're also invited to attend. So during these programs that we've been doing, seeing superintendents from across the state, seeing teachers, seeing principals, being able to see that New Jersey School Boards is reacting and providing professional development opportunities like this at a time when, boy, we all need it, is really something that's exciting. So as a result of this kind of enthusiasm around what we've been doing, there's plenty of plans within our building to long-term now, not just make a webinar, not just make a Facebook Live event, not just do a podcast, but to create course content for the subject matters. And I'm going to jump over here a little bit to the STEM. New Jersey School Boards has this phenomenal program called STEAM Tank. It's a student learning challenge that's based on the TV show Shark Tank. Kids across the state put together an entrepreneurial idea for a problem that they see in their world, in their community, in their school. Kids have gotten patents as a result of some of the phenomenal ideas that they have. Rich and I were talking about it one day, and he told me about all the work that Rutgers was doing in the STEM world, and we sat and we started to talk about how we can do collaboration around that. So there are so many things and so many areas that, again, we have programs, but to now be able to translate that into a class that says, how does a teacher run a STEAM program? How does a teacher coordinate a STEAM Tank project? So I think that there's just going to be more and more and more of the translation from these ideas and these training programs that we've always done in school boards, and now being able to truly create training so that school districts all across the state can copy these best practices and implement them. And that's how you make real culture and climate change in school districts. So it's really very, very exciting. And so what we're seeing is that we are extending these professional development opportunities to so many people within the school district. And I think there's just no limit to the kinds of things that we're going to be able to do moving forward.
Before before I comment, I want to encourage our participants to submit any questions using the chat. And Crystal, I encourage you, before we go into talking about phase 3 of the partnership, I encourage you to interrupt us with any questions that you may find in the chat that you think would be important for us to answer. So just want to finish out with a few more comments on phase 2. And then we'll take a pause and see if we have any questions that have stacked up, and then we'll move on to phase 3 of the partnership. Couple things that I want to add about the phase 2 part of the partnership. So yes, Rutgers Continuing Studies is a diamond sponsor for the annual workshop, but we also do presentations at the workshop, and we are able to promote the various programs that we have across lifelong learning offered through Rutgers Continuing Studies. Well, why? I go back to where we started when we talked about lifelong learning. And as Patty highlighted, board members have many different roles. Their role of board member is just one. They may be a parent, they may be employed, they may be engaged in community building, community activities. They could be an elected official besides being a board member. So, I mean, there's just so many different areas of life that folks are engaged in. That's what we know in continuing education as well, that we have adult learners who have many different roles, and their role as a learner is just one among many. They also have friends, they have neighbors, they have family members who may be interested in a children's program, in reading enrichment for their children, who may be interested in some post-career academic enrichment programs for someone in their family. So there's a wide variety of offerings to touch a wide variety of audiences. Everybody knows somebody that's looking for some continuing learning. Our and Patty talked about the STEM collaboration. Our Center for Math Science Computer Education continues this collaboration in the STEM and STEAM, and most recently now in the area of makerspace. So Rutgers has been engaged. We through the continuing studies have been engaged in makerspace education, and we are in this crisis looking for ways that we can make the makerspace experience virtual. And our team is collaborating with the team at the New Jersey School Board Association to look at, are there things that we can do, perhaps makerspace in a kit, both for teachers and for students, so we can bring this experience home.
And Rich, can I just jump in there too?
Yep.
Because I think what you just said is really, really critical. As these new opportunities arise, I mean, some might call them problems. We are going to call them opportunities. The fact that we have a relationship in place, a vehicle in place, that we now know that we can take an issue, and makerspace is a perfect example of that. You know, a lot of districts think they don't have the money to create a makerspace. They don't have the resources to do that. The fact that we can create a training program for teachers, the fact that we can create a program that educates and explains how it can be done without a lot of resources, that you can do it with a kit, you can do it, it doesn't have to be those things. It allows us to impact so many students by being able to create these alternative ways of delivering this important content to our teachers and to our administrators.
And I would amplify that to say that and suggest to you that two outcomes from this crisis that we are living through, two things that we have learned already. One, and Patty alluded to this earlier, going forward, it is very likely that it will be imperative for whatever we do, whenever we return to face-to-face activity, that we retain a virtual component. We have learned that there are many more people who gain access when we offer a virtual component to whatever it is that we offer. By way of example, this conference was supposed to take place in person on March 16th. And when we canceled it, we had 400 people registered for the conference. We took advantage of that day and said people had, planned on participating on that day. And so we quickly, within days, literally within days, put together a day-long series of concurrent webinars, not as sophisticated as this conference, but a series of webinars. We had 800 people participate in those webinars on that day.
Incredible.
We believe that going forward, even when we return to having face-to-face gatherings, larger face-to-face gatherings, whenever that is, that there is still a need to serve a broader population by having a virtual component. I've suggested to friends and colleagues that if I were starting a storefront business today, the only way that I would do that is ensuring that I had a virtual presence, so that if I couldn't open the storefront, the physical storefront, that I could quickly shift to online. That's one of our new realities, right?
Yes.
One of our new realities.
And I want to add to you that we have Rich alluded to earlier, we have our workshop in Atlantic City that has been going on for many, many, many years. We have about 8,500 school leaders that come down from the majority of school districts across New Jersey. And unfortunately, we made the decision about 3-4 weeks ago to go completely virtual. But what's going to be interesting about that is that I think that based on what we're seeing, just by the attendance of our virtual events, that I, like Rich, believe that we are going to probably, yes, we'll be sad not to be together and have those networking and opportunities to say hello and give each other a hug and all those things that we all love to do and will always want to do. But we too have issues with everyone being able to have access to that conference for the reasons I mentioned before. And so I think especially now for schools having difficult financial times and the cost of going to a conference and all of those things, to be able to have a virtual event where people can come, get that great content, but not have to travel to Atlantic City, I think is going to be outstanding. So our fingers are crossed that we will have a successful conference as well. But I think even moving forward, we'll always have the in-person event, but we'll probably always have a hybrid situation like that for those people that might not be able to come to Atlantic City, but want to take advantage of the professional development opportunities that are critical to their roles.
Good. Crystal, quick check-in with you if we have any questions that we need to respond to before we talk about phase 3 as we wrap this session up.
As of right there are no questions.
Okay, so we're going to move to our last phase, which is what is our vision for the future? And our vision that we are still hammering out is a vision for a New Jersey lifelong learning portal that truly responds to the broad needs of the state of New Jersey and the broad vision of lifelong learning that engages New Jersey citizens in all steps along their lifelong journey. Patty, how about your comments on this vision for phase 3?
I think this is probably all those conversations that Rich talked about. This is probably the phase that Rich and I realized that we were really meant to be lifelong friends as well as lifelong learners. Because I think that what's so exciting about this is each of our organizations have so many partners in the state of New Jersey, and to be able to have a central location where people can share their expertise, their best practices, their micro credentials, We are, in thanks to Rich and his team, we actually are going to start a micro-credentialing badging for New Jersey school boards. Imagine people being able to get credentials within all of these organizations that represent education and be able to say to their communities, I have taken training in this. I understand this. I can be a help with this. To me, this is the most exciting thing. And there's also the ability to bring the private sector into this as well and make sure that their resources, their skill sets are being able to be shared within schools is wonderful. And I am so excited about phase 3, because if phase 3 looks like phase 1, we're in pretty good shape.
So on that note of excitement, anticipation, joy, celebrating what we have done, and just excitement for the future and the potential for the future, we are coming to the end of our time together for this session. I thank you for your participation. I hope that you not only gained some insights about what we are doing and why we are doing, but I hope that you picked up some of the enthusiasm from us for what the future could hold.